William Stryker, a very popular name in the X-Men franchise. This character is well known as a major antagonist who appears in multiple films and comics. Stryker is an anti-mutant extremist who is a strong believer in mutants being the biggest threat to humanity. Throughout the series of multiple films, Stryker launched attacks on mutants and their allies. He used his influence and resources to achieve his goals and succeed in his missions. This ruthless leader is determined to stop at nothing till he wipes out the existence of mutants, thus becoming the ultimate nemesis of X-Men. Till now, the character has been played by several actors, including Brian Cox, Josh Hellman and Danny Huston. So in today's episode, we will be exploring this sinister minister whose mutant-hating beliefs created major chaos and set the road for many events in the world of X-Men. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Exploring the dark origins of William Stryker. William Stryker is one of the most famous characters in Marvel Comics. Stryker is a former military man and a religious fanatic who has nothing but utter hatred for mutants. No, it isn't for nothing. He blames the race of mutants as his child turns out to be one. He also becomes obsessed with purifying the world after eliminating the mutant kind. He is nothing but a cunning figure who is willing to go to extreme lengths to achieve his mission, including mass murder and brutal experimentation on mutants. He went to some notable extent to become a major X-Men villain and often led various anti-mutant groups and conducted experiments on mutants in an attempt to purify or filter humanity. The question remains, why? When his son was born, he knew something did not sit right, and it did not take him long enough to figure out that his child was a mutant. Being furious, he killed his wife and child. Not only this, he even wanted to take his own life. Stryker soon came to the conclusion that God had chosen this path for him and made sure his own son was a mutant so Stryker could be guided towards the path as God intended. He also believed that his hatred for mutants solely came from a belief indicating that the devil claims his wicked influence on the world, and to prevent that, mutants must be eliminated from the world. He was a firm believer in God and believed that God himself prevented his suicide so he could serve him. William Stryker also led a group named the Purifiers with the intention of wiping out the race of mutants. The Purifiers are extremists and an anti-mutant group who carry out acts of terrorism and violence against mutants and their allies. Their actions are ruthless and they aim to cleanse the world of all mutants and have used various methods to achieve their goal. This includes capturing and experimenting on mutants, using advanced technology on them, and even manipulating the media to spread their beliefs and ideas. So naturally, Purifiers are often in conflict with the X-Men and other mutant groups. The group even managed to capture Professor X and took the lives of many mutant children, which was clearly out of line. Stryker almost killed Kitty Pryde, which triggered the authorities, and they decided to shoot him. Later on, Stryker was thrown in prison, and it led to his followers being scattered.
My name is Major William Stryker.
He had an integral part in several X-Men live-action movies. X2, X-Men United. In the 2003 film named X2 X-Men United, William Stryker's role was played by Brian Cox. The Scottish actor put his extraordinary effort into the role and helped the character establish himself as one of the most famous antagonists in the X-Men film franchise. Stryker is again portrayed as a former military operative who has become desperate with the idea of eliminating mutants' existence from the Earth. Stryker believed that mutants are a threat to humanity and they must not exist. He continues with a series of attacks on the X-Mansion, which is home to the X-Men. Then he captures Professor X to get more information about mutants. Not only this, he also uses Nightcrawler in order to manipulate the government while threatening the president into supporting his mission. He uses his ideology and knowledge of the X-Men and mutants and presents them in a way that seems like a threat to national security. Throughout the film, Stryker's brutality can be seen as he continues to be the reason for several conflicts between the X-Men and the military. The final showdown soon takes place at Alkali Lake, which is the base for Stryker and his followers. The X-Men put the best of their efforts into stopping him, and Stryker ultimately gets eliminated after his base is destroyed. The climax of the movie shows the destruction of his base and the character's demise because of it. X-Men Origins Wolverine. William Stryker is the main character in one of the most popular 2009 films, X-Men Origins Wolverine. Once again, he is a ruthless military scientist, but this time he is tasked with creating a team of mutants to serve as weapons for the government. Stryker can be seen as the main antagonist in the film, and his wicked actions have a major impact on the film's characters, including Wolverine and Sabretooth. As usual, Stryker is power hungry, but this time he is obsessed with creating the ultimate mutant weapon. He used his clever mind to make Wolverine and Sabretooth join his team. In order to achieve his goal, Stryker was ready to use all possible unethical methods, which included brutal experiments and several genetic engineering procedures. This would enhance the abilities of the mutants who were under his control. He was also willing to kill anyone who got in his way, including other mutants and innocent civilians. Through his experimentation and manipulation, he is responsible for giving them the abilities and enhancements they are known for in the X-Men universe. For example, Stryker is behind the adamantium bonding process that gives Wolverine his adamantium claws, and he is also responsible for giving Sabretooth his enhanced senses and strength. He initially manipulated Logan by making him believe that Creed had taken the life of Kayla Silverfox. After the adamantium process was over, it did not take Logan long to learn that Stryker was lying. Stryker then hit Logan's head with the adamantium bullets, which resulted in amnesia. When Stryker tries to shoot Kayla, he is forced by the mutant's telepathic ability to keep on walking till his feet start to bleed. He ultimately got heavily scrutinized by the military and thus raised questions about his relationship with General Munson. Throughout the film, Wolverine was motivated by a desire to stop Stryker's plans and protect the mutant community. He struggled with his own anger and desire for revenge, as well as his loyalty to his friends and fellow mutants. Through his interactions with Stryker, Wolverine is forced to confront these issues and ultimately decides to turn against him, which leads to the final showdown between the two characters. Stryker's plans and actions have caused a character build-up in Wolverine's personality. The impact of Stryker's actions extended beyond the film itself, as his role in the X-Men universe sets the stage for future events. His actions also caused mistrust between the mutants and led to increased government scrutiny of the mutant community. These events have set the plotline for multiple events in the future X-Men films, where the mutants would be struggling to protect their rights and existence in a world that hates and fears them. Danny Huston played the character and brought out a sense of gravitas and intensity to the personality of Stryker. His performance justified the character's subtle yet evil nature and his desperate obsession with creating the ultimate mutant weapon. Lastly, Danny Huston's portrayal of William Stryker in X-Men Origins Wolverine has been a key aspect of the film's success. X-Men First Class. X-Men First Class was released in 2011 in the X-Men universe. This film takes place in the 1960s timeline and is a prequel to the previous X-Men films. The movie features Stryker's father, Agent Stryker, who's played by Don Creech. He is a CIA agent, and to our surprise, he is driven by his hatred towards mutants, just like his son. During his discussion with Xavier about mutants, beliefs get exposed as Xavier reads his mind. When Xavier asks him to prove whether his son was a mutant or not, Stryker was obviously furious. He then plans on attacking the X-Men while collaborating with the Soviet forces. He made a deal with them to join the US naval forces in order to launch this attack, but Magneto saved the day with his firm grasp on electromagnetism. Stryker is also motivated to save the human race from the threat of mutants, but his actions have been bordering on cruelty. X-Men Days of Future Past. In the 2014 X-Men Days of Future Past movie, Major Bill Stryker's role was played by Josh Hellman, the Australian actor. Here, Stryker gets involved in the development of the Sentinel program, a government project that is aimed at eliminating mutants. For those of you who are not aware, Sentinels are robots that are programmed to hunt the mutant kind. Hellman's portrayal of the character in the movie serves as a continuation of the character's story from previous X-Men films. Previously shot footage and audio clips of Cox were also used in this movie. Stryker was the right hand of Bolivar Trask in the year 1973, and he witnessed almost every action that was presented by Wolverine, while Xavier, along with Beast and Eric, tried to stop Mystique's assassination attempt on Bolivar. However, Wolverine gets a hardcore flashback due to Stryker's presence, which hints at the future actions of Stryker. It causes a distraction, while Len Sher takes advantage of and attempts to murder Mystique in order to alter the course of the future. As Magneto launches a counterattack, Stryker and Trask witness Sentinel's demonstration in Washington. X-Men Apocalypse. In the 2016 film X-Men Apocalypse, Josh Helman reprises the role. It is soon revealed in the film that in the days of future past, the future was slightly modified. Stryker soon enters the X-Mansion to investigate unnatural events caused by Xavier when Apocalypse used him to send out Earth's nuclear missiles into space. Stryker abducts Beast, Quicksilver, Mystique, and even Moira McTaggart to dig into the telepathic broadcast caused by Xavier. However, he was not aware that Kurt helped Scott Summers, Kurt Wagner, and Jean Grey get into his chopper via teleporting. Meanwhile, Jean also managed to telepathically convince every guard that the three are just invisible. In the past decade, Stryker abducted and even psychologically altered Logan after putting adamantium into his skeleton. Not long after, Jean finds out and releases Logan. This results in Stryker being forced to flee from his base, while Logan mercilessly slaughters his soldiers. Jean eventually restores some of the memories of Logan. In X-Men films, there are two separate characters named William Stryker. There's one who appears in the original trilogy of films like X2, X-Men United, X-Men The Last Stand, and X-Men Days of Future Past. And then there is another version that appears in 2016's X-Men Apocalypse. These two have different backgrounds and intentions, but most importantly, their storylines do not overlap. In X-Men Apocalypse, the younger William Stryker can be seen as a military operative who is often involved in Weapon X, the program responsible for the creation of Wolverine. In X-Men Days of Future Past, the older William Stryker is a military scientist who is involved in the development of the Sentinel program. However, the two characters are not related, but both have a son named William Stryker Jr. This distinction helps to maintain the continuity of the X-Men film franchise, which features multiple timelines and alternate realities. There are other characters, such as Emma Frost, who also have multiple versions of herself portrayed in a way that she has no real consistency. Some of his other memorable comic book story arcs. Stryker's leadership and the Purifiers. When Stryker was free from his imprisonment, he came across a Sentinel's whereabouts, which triggered him. His name was Nimrod, and he belonged to a timeline of an alternate future. Nimrod's memory system allowed Stryker to understand M-Day's effects before it even took place. As he had the knowledge from the events of the future, he soon started to rescue several humans who had a death impending in the near future. Matthew Risman was one of them. He is a trained sniper and contract killer well known as an enemy of mutants. As their intentions matched, Risman supported Stryker, which eventually resulted in restarting the Purifiers. With the support of this religious group, he was able to continue his torture on mutants again. Purifiers blindly believed that God intended to wipe out the existence of the mutant population through the events of M-Day, and it was their duty to finish what God had started. They eliminated the lives of several mutants, which included Icarus and Wallflower. Enraged, Elixir then killed William Stryker to seek revenge. And then Matthew led the Purifiers, with the sole belief that Stryker did so much more than just create a movement against the mutants. He considered Stryker to be a hero who started a war. Bastion eventually revived William with the techno-organic virus, and he most likely got his leadership on Purifiers back after the death of Risman. Second Advent. Purifiers soon merged with Sapien League, and it did not take Stryker long enough to regain control of the group. He started working with Bastion, as well as Bolivar Trask, Stephen Lang, and Graydon Creed. Bastion dispatches Reverend along with Purifiers to eliminate them, and they succeed in doing so. They use a weaponized ritual weapon, which helps them to pull out Ilana Rasputin from the battle. In the meantime, Nightcrawler's teleportation also gets neutralized. The X-Men soon find themselves trapped and cornered by the Purifiers, as they also cannot teleport. Wolverine understands the intensity of the battle and how they can be pinned down by the Purifiers. As per his instruction, Angel soon transformed him into an Archangel persona, and William Stryker's menace was finally put to an end as Wolverine sliced his body in half. Resurgence. A few months passed by and Stryker was brought back from the dead by cybernetic means. He then resumed his Weapon X program, and there began the preparation of new humanoid Sentinels. Weapon X went against Sabretooth, Lady Deathstrike, Old Man Logan, and Dominio with an intention of eliminating their lives and taking their DNA, which would help make a destructive weapon that can be used against the mutants. Somehow the mutants were able to withstand the attack, but Stryker got access to some of their DNA. Not only this, Weapon X also got access to Hulk's DNA, and thus began one of the most petrifying projects, Weapon H. Stryker put together an army fueled with the mixed DNA of Wolverine and Hulk. Stryker was sure of his winning, but fortunate enough, the programming of Weapon H turned out to be faulty, and the system got disconnected. It resulted in the creature operating and thinking on its own. A group of mutants who referred to themselves as Weapon X attacked Stryker and defeated him. Did his movie appearances change his comic book counterpart? Classic villains such as Magneto and Apocalypse have presented quite the competition to the X-Men, but none of those powerful villains or anti-heroes represented such a threat to Marvel's mutants as William Stryker did. Stryker became one of the most notable characters in the X-Men universe within no time and evolved into a completely different character. A lot of things have changed from his personality to his involvement, and he eventually reinvented his comic book counterpart. William Stryker first made his appearance in the graphic novel named X-Men God Loves, Man Kills by Brent Anderson and Chris Claremont. We already know that this military persona is generally stiff and evil, how furious and enraged he got after he found out his wife gave birth to a mutant son, and what followed. Stryker attempted to hold Professor X in captivity in God Loves, Man Kills so that his telepathic powers could be used to wipe out all mutants from Earth. Though the X-Men were able to stop him, Stryker went to the extent of almost killing Kitty Pryde. Stryker played as the main antagonist in 2003's X2 X-Men United. This is not all. He was even the major individual to lead the Weapon X program in the X-Men films. It resulted in Wolverine getting the adamantium skeleton and his memory being taken away, which eventually turned him into a killing machine. Stryker obviously replayed his wicked role again in God Loves, Man Kills 2. After he fled from jail, he did not hesitate to join forces with Lady Deathstrike. He wore a mandroid armor that almost appeared as Iron Man's suit. His whole disposition was nothing but raging wrath. His group, the Purifiers, soon resurfaced with significantly more high-tech menace and ended up killing several depowered mutants at the Xavier Institute. Guided by his religious ideology, William Stryker was soon established as a prominent villain and one of the greatest threats to X-Men. His character got recognition like any other high-tech mutant hunter of Marvel. In just a few years, Stryker was transformed into a cyborg and he rebuilt the Weapon X program. He was also looking after the development of Weapon H. In general, Stryker's character is farthest from a simple-minded villain, and that is what he is portrayed as in God Loves, Man Kills. But the character becomes more interested in and involved with aliens, secret missions and agencies, as well as cyborgs and magic in X2. His core personality never really changed, as the hatred and desperate ruthlessness for others remained constant. Weapon X has also made a heavy influence on the character. William Stryker in the Age of Apocalypse alternate timeline. Age of Apocalypse is another series by Marvel Comics which puts William Stryker in the spotlight. After many children were brutally murdered by a group of mutants, a preacher rescued some children, including Stryker. He took them in his care and looked after them as they grew. Ironically, the preacher was killed by other humans who survived the murder spree. From this incident, Stryker learned to live in hiding, almost in disguise, and often depended on humans and mutants. He turned out to be more patient compared to his 616 counterpart version. While disguised as the Prophet, he also plans on taking revenge against humanity with X terminated. Kraken was a well-known engineer who designed and built a certain type of oven that had the capability to incinerate humans. The Prophet soon took his life after breaking into his apartment, but spared the lives of his family members. It was soon revealed that he had damaged Kraken's eyes earlier and then beheaded him, therefore murdering him. Stryker had spent quite a bit of time studying the techniques and tactics used by Sentinels to hunt humans and mutants. The thorough observation had sharpened his skills of taking lives, and he became more familiar with the Sentinel's weaknesses. The Prophet did not face much trouble in attacking the Sentinel. He was rageful and merciless while cutting off the robot heads. He proudly announces his powers, claiming how his skills were obtained only after seeing the slaughtering spree of thousands of lives. Prophet helps the surviving city of men to escape from the attacks of Weapon X and throws explosives at them to distract and damage them. The city soon gets destroyed by Weapon X, while the Prophet makes sure his team gets out of the city safely. What makes William Stryker so powerful? William Stryker is one of the most powerful characters in the X-Men universe. He comes from a military background and holds extensive knowledge of advanced military technologies, intelligence tactics and weaponry. This gives him a significant advantage in his mission to eliminate the existence of mutants. Stryker also has access to vast financial resources that he can use to fund his anti-mutant operations. He uses multiple resources such as advanced weaponry, hiring powerful allies, or even building large-scale facilities facilities that help him carry out his mission. Stryker's access to political influence is also something that makes him so powerful. Over the years, he has formed multiple connections with government agencies and often taken advantage of his powers to manipulate the system to work in his favour. The character's personality and mindset are so firm that he's willing to do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. He is driven by hatred and his beliefs to such an extent that he can no longer see the goodwill of mutants. He has been transformed into a cyborg and is equipped with adamantium parts. This is mainly the reason for his superhuman agility and durability, which allowed him to survive even after he was injured by H-alpha. Stryker also has a certain tech implant that allows him to block and defend himself against telepathic invaders. And with that, we come to the end of the video. Stay tuned for more detailed videos about your favourite characters. Also, do smash that like button and stay tuned with us for more such videos. Until then, toodaloo. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.